Welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. I'm your host, Deborah Chantry-Taylor. I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs and their leadership teams get what they want out of business and life. On the show, I invite successful business owners and expert speakers to share their successes. They are open and honest about the highs and lows of business and also life as a business owner. We want to share those learnings with you to inspire you, but also to help you avoid some of the common mistakes. My hope is that you take something from each of these short episodes that you can put into action to help you get what you want, not only out of your business, but also your life. So, good morning and welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. Today I am joined by Adam Harris, who is now a Kiwi, but originally from the UK like myself. And we actually met because Adam was on a similar kind of EOS journey to myself, and he'll tell you that story. But he moved to New Zealand for a very specific reason. So he'll tell you that as well. Adam, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on board.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah. So you have a really interesting story, don't you? Because you kind of uncovered EOS and got involved with that. And then it led to you actually moving to this side of the world. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, so I've been a leadership coach, consultant, facilitator, all those kind of buzzwords. Predominantly, I challenge people and create space and environment for them to grow themselves and their organizations. Yeah. One of my clients, this is going back now, probably about 8 years, had come across Traction. I'd been coaching him as the CEO and also the senior leadership team. And he said, we've tried lots of different things, and actually we feel as if we want to move forward with EOS. I'm like, what the heck is EOS? And that was before the book came out. And he said, look, just read the book and tell me what I think. And I was like, wow. I'd written and published my book by that point, the Check-in Strategy Journal. And I just kind of looked at EOS and went, oh my God, this is just, it's the simplicity of it that I loved. The second thing is that it was the ability to be able to dilute and change the whole organization. So I think a lot of the times is the language and the speak is very high level, but to get kind of, Joe in the warehouse to be able to understand the terminology and the methodology, I think there's always been a bit of a challenge. Yeah. And then kind of the third thing was, it was the consistency, the cadence of meetings, the accountability, etc. So I was like, look, if you want me to help you facilitate, I'm more than happy to do so. So I was learning on the fly, absolutely love it. It helped me develop as a coach and as a facilitator. So that kind of then started a journey of just, as often as I do, I kind of got I've always had a big tool bag, and I'd be sitting with clients go, look, I'm not sure if you're interested, but I've just done EOS. What's EOS? And then you go down the story. And then, so in total over the years, I've helped implement about 25 different companies. In one of those companies, a former coachee of mine was really interested in kind of doing EOS and everything. And she said, look, I'm really thinking about being an EOS implementer. I was like, cool, go for it. Go through the training. She says, but I need a company to kind of do a bit of a test bed with. I'm like, hands up, somebody offering to give me some support and help. So we as a business went through the process. And when we were kind of looking down and setting the 10-year vision, one of the things that we decided was as a family, and one of kind of our overarching things is the business is the business of the family. So everything that we do is about creating the money and the opportunity to stretch ourselves. Yep. So we set ourselves the 10-year vision of leading a nomadic life. That kind of sat on a bit on the back burner. And at the time, my daughters were 11 and 7. And we kind of got to the stage where we decided that we wanted to try and do something new. And we were actually looking at the south of England at kind of a Montessori or a Steiner methodology of education. Both myself and my wife are educators. And that's kind of fortuitously how we then started kind of the New Zealand journey. So I saw some flights come up. So I've got family up in Whangaparoa, about an hour north of Auckland. So I hadn't seen them for a while. These flights come up. We came over at Christmas time, leaving Christmas Day. And then while we were there, we kind of remembered why we were looking at moving to New Zealand. We nearly did about 8 years ago, before my wife got cancer. Some more flights came up. I was like, okay, well, let's book a flight for my wife and my eldest to come back and look at the schools. And then in between, we then found out about the Green School, which is here down in New Plymouth, very much around experiential learning. And it was like kind of, the universe kind of just plays and gives you these things. And then we finally moved here December 19.
Wow.
EOS has been a big part of my life.
Yeah, I can see that. And so how are you finding it in New Plymouth?
It's quite different to what I'm used to. I was only saying the other day, I don't really spend much time in traffic, which probably shouldn't tell too many Aucklanders that. We're quite far out of the way. We're not a throughput town. So there's got to be a reason and a decision you want to get here, which in some ways kind of leads us to be kind of a really best kept secret. Life here is, 5 minutes down to the beach. Never lived by the water before, so I'm really loving and enjoying that. It's been challenging. So I think the aspect of, with anything new comes excitement and anticipation. And then kind of when that's kind of settled down, there's kind of almost this realization of, I've got a sense of loneliness and isolation, and that's been kind of exasperated through the pandemic, and kind of just navigating through new and different thoughts and relationships, etc. Whilst it's been challenging, there's also been an aspect of kind of leaning into that from a growth area perspective.
Yeah. And I know you've got some great clients down there that you're working with now. What is it like from a business perspective in New Plymouth?
Interesting. I've found culturally business in New Zealand different. We were talking before we hit the record button that whilst the language verbally is the same, is that actually culturally is very, very different. I had anticipated that it was going to take some time and effort to understand the nuances. But it feels as if sometimes you've just got to start from ground zero. And I just kind of got to the stage of going, right, okay, look, I can only be who I am. Yep. I can't pretend to be anybody else because everybody else is taken. And then, do what I do best, which is connect people, add value, and just spend a lot of time listening and asking the right questions at the right time. And what's happened over the time since I've been here is you just build and things just kind of germinate and grow. And then all of a sudden you kind of sit back and go, oh, okay, I wouldn't have done that a year ago, not because I didn't want to, but maybe I wouldn't have necessarily been accepted.
Yep.
Things then just start kind of happening. And I'm an opportunist. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yep.
I see it from the visionary perspective, and I also see it from the integrator's perspective. And that ability to kind of be able to do so, I think, has always stood me in good stead. To listen, observe, and learn, and adapt accordingly to the situations.
And that's kind of so frank and fearless. That's come, I assume, from that journey that you've been on while you've been here.
Yeah. So my business for many years was called Fresh Mindset, and very much about twisting the kaleidoscope and allowing people to kind of have a different view and a different perspective. Part of that is around giving ourselves permission to go through that. What I found was for the first kind of 9 to 12 months, I spent a lot of time listening, and it wasn't necessarily just about being here in New Zealand. Actually, it was from kind of a global perspective, but then B, from how I've been working and operating. And I kind of just got to the stage of kind of going, I'm not necessarily being true to who I am. I need to speak up a little bit more. I need to be a bit more frank and fearless. And I'd started writing a book about 5 years ago called Frank and Fearless, How to Have Focus, Flow and Fun, specifically in the boardroom, but from a wider perspective around, we take things so seriously, and actually we're not having the right conversations with the right people at the right time, whether that be first and foremost with ourselves, second of all, internally, but actually, as importantly, from an external perspective. And I was just finding that I was having a lot of conversations with people and just thought, do you know what? Now's the right time to just kind of rebrand. And I wanted to, be able to differentiate me and the people that work with me as to this is who we are and what we're about. So kind of the narrative, but also from an aspect of qualification to kind of go, look, if you want to work with us, that's great. We are slightly different and a little bit nuancy. This is who we are and this is what we're about. If you want to engage, great. If you don't want to engage, even better. And actually that has allowed to ensure that we're having great conversations with great people that want to move themselves and their organizations forward. And that's all I want. I don't really want to waste time on navel gazing conversations. I think for me, it's great to just have, really intellectual, challenging conversations. So if I could be spending more time doing that and less time wastage, actually I've become more productive.
That's really key, isn't it? It's interesting because obviously in the EOS way of doing things, we talk about the niche and what your target market is. And for a lot of people, they go down very much the whole, oh, well, they're this age or they're this sex or they're this industry. But in actual fact, a niche can come down to the way that people think and feel and how they behave. And I think that people seem to discount that a lot of the time and just go, well, I need to pick a specific industry. I think it's very much about attitude. I've got an elephant sitting next to me for the same reason as you. It's like if people look at the elephant and sort of think, quite frankly, what the fuck is she doing with an elephant? They're probably not going to enjoy working with me. So tell me a little bit more about the EOS journey, the stuff that you did with EOS, and what are the things that you really got out of that? I know you said it was beautifully simple. It was very much about getting people all on the same page and being able to work through the layers. What are the kind of the key things that you found in the businesses you worked with?
Yeah. So, and as I'm sitting there reflecting, I'm wondering if one of the reasons why I got, frank and fearless has become so prevalent is that actually, it's interesting, the elephant in the room. How many times was I, even before EOS, my challenging style is I come at it from a word called carefrontational. It's a bit American and a bit cheesy, but there's an aspect of around, as a facilitator, my role is to create the space and the container, but then be able to pick up on the energy, pick up on the things that are not being said, the subtleties that are around. And actually for me, EOS just enhanced that a step further because the process married with my style. So what it allowed me to do is just to turn around and go, so Deborah, you don't believe that he gets it. What makes you say that? Well, just tell me more. Just explain. So that the process that we were going through just allowed that kind of enhancement. And I was just finding that there's so much good stuff. There's so many good people. There's so many great companies that actually miss out because there's high levels of complacency. There's little levels. I don't even think it's just accountability. I think it's a lack of inertia. There's so much assumptions that are being made. And actually, when you can walk away, as I know that you do, and I do, is that when you walk away from an intervention with a client and you go, fuck me, I added some value today. Yeah. Not only, and I get a huge amount of buzz and energy from that. Yep. I, from a coaching perspective, I've always lived by the mantra that if I feel uncomfortable, I am playing in exactly the right space, because I know that if I'm not prepared to go there, then nobody else will. Yeah. It's kind of like, that's where I kind of get my kryptonite from, is that, and it's not about making people feel uncomfortable. It's just about having those right conversations. I think the other thing is that people hold on to members of staff and members of their team for far too long, and taking or allowing and helping, organizations and individuals to understand those emotions and to, understand and there's been times when I've had to be really blatant and kind of go, right, okay, get your wallet out on the table. And I will literally take cash out of somebody's wallet and go, look, you would not accept this from me.
Yeah.
Now, so why do you feel it's acceptable to allow one of your members of your staff to basically steal from you?
I was wondering where you were going with that. I'm so pleased that we got to that. But it's true, though, right? Yeah, and it's a really nice way of showing it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much more. I mean, I would urge anybody that's listening to this to definitely be exploring, the methodology around EOS, to be looking at the books, to be having conversations, with you, because you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And actually, if you don't understand why you, as the entrepreneur or the business exists, what's the point? You've really got to, ascertain, and, I think there's so much bullshit, and it's great to be on a podcast where I could just be a little bit free with my language. But there's so much business bullshit that actually you need to understand, and EOS might be part of it. But if you're not spending the time, energy, and effort in addressing the things that you really need to, what is the point? You might as well just go and get a job with somebody else. And the chances are, if you're good at what you do, so you probably go into an organisation and earn a decent salary, and that actually may well be the best thing for you. Mm-hmm. But at least have the honesty and the openness to explore it and then get to that conclusion.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So, did you have any sort of favourite tools in EOS that you like to use?
I love GWC. Do they get it? Do they want it? They've got the capacity. I think it's a real true leveler. I think it completely strips away, the emotion, and it really makes you look in the mirror and just go, look, are we just being too nice? And I think it's really easy to just be nice. And somebody, years ago, I remember somebody selling, way before kind of EOS, is that the longer you hang on to somebody knowing that it's the wrong decision, you're actually preventing them from actually doing what they need and what they're passionate about,
what they love.
So we think that we're protecting them, and we think that we're doing the best thing for us because we don't want the confrontation, and we don't want to have the difficult conversation. But actually, nobody's winning. And the sooner that we do it, the better it's going to be for all parties. Yeah. So I love GWC.
I must admit, one of the times that I actually did it with a leadership team and explained we're going to do like a real-time review and actually go around the room and talk about whether somebody GWC'd it. There was just these looks of horror on their faces. It's like, what now? Like, actually in real time? It's like, yes, we are. And, people were very nervous about it. But in actual fact, some things came out of that I think I've never, ever, in the 35 years that company being together, ever been discussed. And it was fabulous. And, I think that when you have those conversations, then you can really start to move forward.
Yeah. And I think that for me, there's a big part of that is about, a large part of what EOS is about giving people the permission to be open, honest, and vulnerable. In theory, being frank and fearless.
Yeah. Because
that they know that they can do so, and they can do it without being shot down.
Yes.
And actually, having that level of, confrontation is good if it's done if it's coming from the right place.
Yeah.
Then what happens is the disagreement and the uncertainty then creates opportunity, because then people go, well, actually, do you know what? And I typically see it so many times in family businesses where the wrong people are leading the business.
Yeah.
Just because they've got the surname, and there's other people. And the thing is that, I think a lot of boards are really naive to think that the rest of the employees and the other stakeholders do not know. And then, you kind of, and I'm sure you've seen this, and there'll be numbers of people that will be listening to the podcast where we've just made this decision or this has happened, and go, well, that should have been done years ago. And you're like, what? And people just know. It's kind of almost like the unwritten. or the unspoken. And the more you can understand that, then the business begins to be a lot more healthy.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the right things instead of talking about the things that they feel that they should do because it's not controversial.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so GWC definitely one of our favorites. Anything else that sort of stands out for you?
I love level 10. I think for me, the cadence of the weekly meeting in line with what we're doing for the quarter and then for the year, the consistency is what creates the traction. And when you think about it, it's so bloody simple. The aspect of let's make sure that same time, same place, same day every single week.
Yep.
But then it's the nuances about ensuring that we're talking about the right things at the right time. And you start seeing very fast, very quickly that we're getting shit done. And actually, people go, if there was any resistance to kind of doing it, is that you suddenly very, very quickly see what begins to change and what begins to happen. Mm-hmm. And actually, part of that challenge is about getting the wrong people out of the business. So what's got you here is not necessarily going to get you where you want to get to. And it's about being brave. I think one of the challenges is I find a lot of the times is that, the entrepreneur, a lot of the times they're the bottleneck.
Yeah.
So there's a huge amount of bravery that is kind of needed to kind of, go through, the process. And sometimes that you can see the mirror being shone up in front of their face. And I'm sure like me, you've seen businesses that retreat or entrepreneurs that retreat because actually the light is being shone on them and they don't actually like it.
Yeah.
If they can get over themselves and they can put their ego to one side, and some can and some can't, is that what then comes off the back end of it is that you've got a far better business. You've got a far better, that's not the right English, far greater level of engagement.
Yep.
And actually you're doing a lot better work, a lot greater work. Yep. For the purpose or whatever it is that and the reason why you exist.
Yep.
But that is part of the journey.
It is interesting. I actually found out that the EOS light bulb, which I always assumed was like an idea light bulb, was actually about shining lights on issues and resolving issues once and for all. So that was an interesting little tidbit there. I forgot to ask you, Harry, at the beginning, like in terms of professional and personal best, what are the things that you would share in terms of your life that you think are, your professional and your personal best so far?
Okay. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an opportunist. I kind of liken it to kind of go, I don't know if you remember the film Minority Report. I think it was an early 90s film, Tom Cruise. And he basically had a whole load of digital displays and he was pulling information in from various bits and pieces and connecting things together. That's kind of how my brain works. So when I'm sitting or I'm listening or I'm watching or I'm observing, I have this ability to naturally be able to connect things together and see things as opportunities. So where other people might be, oh, this isn't necessary, what's the point in doing this? I'm like, okay, this is going to take me one step closer towards what the bigger thing is. So we used to have a business called Airheads. So we used to supply inflatable extras to the TV and film industry. So that took me to some pretty amazing, challenging, different places.
Yeah.
I also used to be a professional lookalike.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'd like to have to guess who it was.
I won't put you through the pain and misery because he was a D-list celebrity. He was married to Liza Minnelli.
Okay.
Famously got beaten up by her, allegedly. He was Michael Jackson's best friend, and he was a world-renowned record producer. most people won't know who he is, but those people that will, or they want to do a picture analysis, was a guy called David Guest.
Yes, I remember him well. Yeah, okay. You were his celebrity lookalike.
Well, yeah, he's dead now, unfortunately. So there's not really much work for me. But again, that just kind of took me to. I didn't do a massive amount of work with that, but it gave me the chance and the opportunity to see differing things. And for me, what's been great over the years of having a portfolio career is things that I'll learn in one situation, I'll then take into the next company or organization or coaching session that I'm doing. And that difference and that ability to be able to kind of interweave different situations, actually, again, that's kind of where my kind of kryptonite is. Yeah. From a personal perspective, I think pretty much selling up and moving across to New Zealand has got to be up there.
Yeah.
What's been interesting is, since I kind of have now got the Frank and Phyllis brand, is I've kind of been leaning into that. So we went down to the South Island earlier this year, and I ended up doing things that I would not normally do. So I wouldn't say that I have a fear of heights or a phobia. I really don't like heights. So, kind of climbing a waterfall in Lake Wanaka, hanging off at, 200 meters above the ground going, what the hell am I doing? But, I kind of this mantra kind of being frank and fearless and leaning into it and showing vulnerability with my two daughters. That's kind of become my new mantra, is just kind of going, look, if you were unsafe, you wouldn't be allowed to do it. So get over that fact, face the fear, and lean into it to see where and how and what the growth aspects are going to be.
And as you said, some fantastic things come out of that, don't they? So it's all worthwhile doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting close to the finish of the podcast. In terms of 3 top tips, because you've obviously lived a fascinating life, and I always love hearing more and more about it. But what were your 3 top tips for business owners who perhaps feel like they might have hit a ceiling or they're kind of getting a bit stuck? What would you say are the 3 things that you would share with them?
Clarity creates confidence.
Yep.
Yeah, I just feel that human nature dictates that our bodies and our minds will take the path of least resistance. Okay, we're fundamentally lazy. So if people don't, and I include the business owner, but then also the members of the organization, also kind of stakeholders, when people don't have clarity, their minds start wandering and they start going off into tangents, and they start creating however many God knows different stories.
Yes.
So when you're able to give people clarity, it actually means that you put their mind at rest. So finding that out. Okay, so where are we heading as an organization? Where and what is it that I want right now? Communicate it through.
Yeah.
People then become self-assured. In theory, it kind of goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I feel safe. And if I feel safe, then I can do what's definitely needed. So definitely clarity creates confidence. The other thing for me is create the space, the environment where you're being challenged. Okay, so I believe that we all need to be challenged. And actually, it's about having our questions questioned and not necessarily our questions answered. Now, the tool for that is going to be different from each individual. So some people may well get that from listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Some people may well get that from reading books or listening to books. Some people, it may well be one-on-one coaching. It might be mentoring. It might be mastermind groups. It might be EOS. Where and what is it within your professional and personal life are you being challenged?
Yeah.
And it may well be the case that actually you outgrow the intervention that you've got to. Mm-hmm. So you kind of need. I kind of look at it. You need to go, you need to be walking away or thinking. That's a really good question. So it's topping any of the challenge that you're doing from an internal perspective.
Yeah.
When you get to that stage, is that you're now kind of working on self-limiting beliefs. You're working on self-actualization. You're in a different growth area to being in the comfort zone. So that's the second thing.
Yep.
The third thing, if it's not working in the boardroom, it's not working in the bedroom.
Okay.
If it's not working in the bedroom, it's not working in the boardroom. Okay. So this was a phrase told to me by a good friend of mine called Nigel Risner in the UK. And he's quite happy in being very controversial. He knows that, just by saying the phrase, some people will get very offended.
Yeah.
The underlying aspect of what he's saying is life is life.
Yep.
And anything that is impacting you from a personal perspective is naturally going to be impacting you from a professional perspective, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. Have the awareness of that and ensure that you are dealing with what you need to kind of deal with. And actually, as a leader or as a business owner, and you have to work out and decide what sort of leader you want to be, but there needs to be a level of humility in the fact that somebody's not performing.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that's going on in their life which is meaning that they're not performing? And, if you're a humble leader and you're building relationships and rapport, actually, how you support people when they're going through the bad times will actually mean that you will have far greater times. So I think there's an aspect of humility, humanize to professionalize. Mm-hmm. For a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast, we're in the business of people. It just so happens that we've got an output product or a service at the back end.
Yeah.
So, from a cultural perspective, what's the culture that you want? What's the culture that you would love to lead? What's the legacy that you want to leave for the people that work for you? These are kind of soul-searching questions, but I believe as a coach and in the fundamentals that sit within EOS, they're absolutely fundamentally important, because otherwise we just become transactional.
Yeah.
And we're just like another business.
Mm-hmm.
I've started to do a lot of work with B corporations.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the aspects of it's not just about the money on the bottom line and shareholder return. What are we doing for our people? What are we doing for the planet? And why do we exist? Yeah. So there's some similarities with EOS.
Love it. Hey, Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. If people want to get in contact with you and have a conversation about being frank and fearless or any other things we've talked about, how would they get hold of you?
So I've got the Frank and Fearless Leadership podcast available on all platforms. frankandfearless.com or find me on LinkedIn, Adam Harris. And I often say to people, really have a look at the testimonials and the videos of what other people say about me, because that'll give you an idea of who I am and what I'm about. Yeah. And I'm a connector. So, I kind of work on the premises that if I don't know the answer, I'll know somebody that will.
Yeah.
And if I don't know somebody that will, I'll know somebody that can introduce me to somebody that can. So
you and I have got a lot of similarities there, but hey, that's really fantastic. Thank you so much. Look forward to catching up again soon, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Fantastic. Hopefully it'll be in Auckland as well, face to face.
Yeah, maybe. Thanks, Adam. Thanks again for joining us on Better Business, Better Life with me, your host, Deborah Chantry-Taylor. If you enjoyed what you heard, then please subscribe to this podcast and let us help you to get what you want out of business and life. Each week we release a new short episode which will give a success story and 3 takeouts to put into action immediately. These will help you take your business from good to great. The podcast is also supported by free resources, templates and useful tools which you can find at deborahchantrytaylor.com. I am a trained entrepreneurial leadership and business coach, a professional EOS implementer and an established business owner myself. I work with established businesses to help them get what they want. Feel free to contact me if you'd like to have a chat about how I might be able to help you, or if you'd like to join me as a guest on this podcast. Thanks again to NZ Audio Editors for producing this podcast. See you on the next episode.